Hey, welcome back to the Total Recap. I'm your host, Colton Ogburn, and in this one, we are going to be recapping, breaking down, and explaining the deeper meaning behind the 6 games of Squid Game Season 1. Squid Game, at its core, is about desperation and exploitation. The players are participating in these games out of a desperate need for money. The rich elites and the Squid Games are taking advantage of these people's struggle, forcing them to work against each other for the elites' benefit and entertainment. Essentially, this series is about class warfare. Now, the games themselves bring out the worst in each character, forcing the players to stoop to the same level as the elites and betray one another for personal gain. Now, while the games also bring out the better angels of some of our characters, like Player 67, but they also end up bringing out the worst in even a player like Player 456 when he betrays Player 1 in the game of marbles. So, let's begin with game number 1, red light, green light.
You are allowed to move forward when it shouts out green light. Stop when it shouts red light.
This game represents the control that the Squid Games have over its players by literally controlling their movements and punishing unsanctioned, involuntary movements with death, despite how hard they try to stay still. This parallels how the poor and the downtrodden can be sentenced to literal death by being denied things as simple as food, water, heat, and healthcare. And the giant doll with camera eyes surveilling their movements represents the nanny state, or Big Brother, aka government surveillance. This is all a commentary on how corrupt governments will enact police states to pad their own bottom line, all in the name of protecting its people, while in reality that is the exact opposite of what they are doing. The Squid Games act as if they are there to help their players, when in reality they are exploiting them, just like corrupt governments and billionaire oligarchs and private interest groups exploit their people. Now, red light, green light symbolizes the structured chaos of authoritarianism, only granting life and the pursuit of happiness to a small few at the top, weeding out early on those who can't meet an incredibly high standard. The setup of the game depicting a large group of players running to a finish line brilliantly represents the hurdle that is life, and how we are all players sprinting toward an unattainable goal of prosperity. In short, red light, green light represents the great race of literal survival and represents the control that the elites and the owning class have over the working people, and how they've implemented a survival of the fittest economic structure to manipulate workers into creating wealth for the top 1%, while only a small few of those working people, if any, actually achieve that same success, i.e., there being a sole winner of the Squid Game who does end up joining the top 1%. Next, we have the game of honeycomb.
The shape you have chosen is the shape you must remove from the honeycomb.
I'm dead.
The various shapes and the false sense of choice symbolizes inequality and how some people are given easier paths in life while others face seemingly impossible odds through no fault of their own. We're seeing the players being placed into a literal cookie-cutter situation, just like in their real lives where they're forced into conformity, forced to take certain paths and stay in line with the life that has been essentially chosen for them. And if they break from that line, like the lines in the cookie, they are basically sentenced to death. Next, we have tug of war.
In order to win, you must pull the rope towards your platform in an attempt to drop your opponents.
This game is a commentary on unionization, but also symbolizes the ways that the elites pin workers against one another. We see the importance of teamwork and strategy, and the strength of many, which is a great metaphor for labor unions. But it also plays into the capitalistic idea of in order to succeed, someone else must fail. Next, we have marbles.
Using your set of 10 marbles, the player who manages to take all 10 marbles from their partner wins.
This game again depicts the way that the working class is forced to fight one another to achieve their own success. And in the process of this war between brothers to topple the other, the fruits of their labor are primarily funneled to the elites who are forcing them into these combative roles. Marbles specifically emphasize the betrayal aspect, forcing co-workers of the same team to turn against one another, betray one another, all just to stay alive.
Player 199 eliminated.
This is also the elite's way of comforting themselves and excusing their own bloodsport mentality. Forcing the players to stab their fellow players in the back makes the elites feel better about and justify their bloodstained path to the top. And it's their way of telling the players that they are no better than the elites and hold no moral ground. Next up, we have the glass bridge.
You will guess which one of the next two tiles is the tile made of the stronger tempered glass.
Glass Bridge is a commentary on leaps of faith and the dangers of taking risks. The wealthy can afford to take big risks that can garner big paydays because if they lose, they'll still be wealthy, whereas the working class and those living in poverty can't afford taking any risk because losing could be the difference between life and death. It also demonstrates how we can build upon the works and sacrifices of those who came before us by learning from their mistakes.
So you went right.
And lastly, we have the Squid Game.
If a situation arises in which either player is unable to continue playing the game, the last one standing will be the winner.
This game represents the overarching theme of the show, class struggle, and in many ways it combines all of the previous games' deeper meanings into one. This game puts the players in a direct one-on-one combative state and emphasizes the winner-takes-all mentality of the world, which mirrors the extremely competitive and violent nature of a capitalist system. Ultimately, it represents the price of competition and how the elites reach their elite status by stepping over others. Remember, each of these games are children's games, the games being games for children that are then perverted into these life and death matches symbolize the innocence of youth and how it is twisted into something sinister with age and joining the real world. The innocence and wonder of a child is stomped out by the cruel realities of life and the system that we live in. And the obstacles most people must face weed out the good eggs, leaving success only for the most ruthless among us. And that was a total recap of each game from Squid Game Season 1. I've been your host, Colton Ogburn, and I'll see you on the next Total Recap.
What about the guy you lobotomized? Did he get a refund? I have to hand it to you. It's the best mindfuck yet.